There is a surge in specialty food products in the last 5 years, thanks in part to advertising and possibly more importantly, sharing on Facebook and Instagram. Few of these manufacturers have made as much an impression as Carmen's Best Ice Cream, which has expanded to supply big supermarket chains, restaurants, and Philippine Airlines. And it all began because Paco Magsaysay's family-owned dairy farm was producing more milk than it could sell. Paco, thank you very much for coming to Rappler.
Thank you for inviting.
So that's how it started. You have a family-owned milk farm, dairy farm.
Yes.
You produce the Holly's Best milk brand.
Holly's milk.
Holly's milk.
Yes.
And you just had too much milk.
Yes. We have to milk the cow, all the cows, twice a day, every day. And we were processing it as fresh milk. So we couldn't sell it fast enough before it got spoiled.
And that's when your father told you,
Help me sell the milk.
so it started out asking you to help him sell more milk.
Yes.
Did you have some success there?
Well, initially the first thing we did was to sell the milk as it was, 1 liter packaging. And the first account we got was Amanpulo Resort. And I really remember how surprised I was that they accepted our quality and so on. So it made me think that we can make other dairy products aside from just selling fresh milk. And we incorporated a company called Carmen's Best Dairy Products with the SEC back in 2009.
What did you think you were going to make?
I had no idea. I mean, we were looking at making flavored milk, some light types of cheeses, even pastillas.
And you did.
And we were making it, but it didn't really excite me.
Was it? Were they selling?
Well, we were just in the trial stage.
Okay.
We were making our friends and our family test it.
So you never took it quote unquote commercial
No, we did not.
because it didn't excite you.
Yeah, it didn't excite me. It wasn't something that, really, it didn't tickle me the way I wanted it to tickle me.
But at that point, your father just wanted you to sell more milk.
Yes.
And you were counting on whether it excited you or not.
Yeah, well, I think at the end of the day...
Wasn't he telling you, I don't care whether you're excited or
Yeah.
not, just sell more?
Well, at the end of the day, I think people succeed better when they are, they're into what they're doing or they enjoy what they're doing.
So it was not cheese and it was not pastillas.
It was not cheese and pastillas. It was just to find out it was ice cream.
How did that come about?
I learned to make ice cream watching YouTube. The same way I learned how to, cook or bake for my kids. I watch YouTube, and it just grew from there. And I remember it got to a point where I had to decide whether to take it on full time. If I should leave my job at that time.
What made you think ice cream was it, the way it was not pastillas or cheese?
Well, the taste when we first made it, and I got to try it. I love ice cream. I'm not a cake or a pastry type of person, so as much as possible, I eat ice cream in all the places that I go to, wherever it is. And I knew that it was very different from everything I tried. So I figured that if I like it that much, I think it's gonna sell. And that's how we started.
What did the market for small-scale ice cream manufacturing look like at that point?
Well, there were a couple, I think there was 1 or 2 other ice cream manufacturers that were doing a small-scale production. And but we weren't expecting so much. I mean, we were just looking to sell in our village in Ayala, Alabang.
Out of your house?
Out of the house.
Yeah.
So there was no expectations that we had to reach double-digit growth or we had to get an ROI of minimum 25-30%. I mean, there was none of that. It was just like, if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So,
If it didn't, you would have found some other product. You would have looked for some other
Yes.
product.
to sell. That's dairy connected.
But it began to click.
It started to click.
And I remember that there were other villages that had houses with signs outside saying that they sold Carmen's Best. Was that your first retail network?
Yes, we started selling, first in the village in Alabang. And it wasn't selling fast enough because we were still milking the cows every day and it wasn't enough. So I had to look for other outlets. And so I had to take in people in different villages to sell the ice cream.
And At what point did you begin to shift from that mode?
Well, I would say about 2 or 3 years after, when more groceries started carrying us. But that's, of course, fast forward to what it was, or close to what it is now.
So your first store, the first store that you got was care of Chit One.
Yes, Chit was a friend of mine from a few years back. And I think she had left the coffee group at that time. And she was starting the Echo Store, the Echo Store brand. And she had opened up a store in Serendra. And I remember meeting her there and making her try the ice cream because she knew of our dairy farm. And she also told me at that time that there was another Echo Store opening in Centris, which is Quezon Avenue and EDSA. And I didn't have any reseller in Quezon City at that time because it seemed so far from Alabang. So it turned out to be a blessing because it gave us presence in the Quezon City area. And it just kept on growing because I think that time social media was just about, parang it was in its infancy, back in 2011, 2012. And more people, there were so many people coming into social media at that time. We were just using posts in Facebook and at that time Instagram to show our ice cream.
Even now, do you analyze how much business or how much following you get via social media?
Yes, we've whenever we boost a post or we need
boost a post means you pay Facebook a little bit of money.
Yes,
to promote your
that we are selling in a particular restaurant or a coffee shop and we want to target, let's say, a provincial town or a certain province, and we're able to do that by choosing who will see the ad.
But a lot of it, you've told me, comes from people just sharing their own pictures.
Yes.
Of them eating or enjoying Carmen's Best.
Yeah.
Are you able to track that?
But we find out like demographics, where they come from, where the posts are coming from. So we do have a group that's taking care of that.
So you were selling through homes, your home and other homes, and you had the Echo Store,
Yes.
2 branches of that. The big break came soon after that. Tell us how you got to sell in Pure Gold.
Yes, I distinctly remember it was a trade show in World Trade Center, and I think it was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And the Sial show, SIAL, it's a French company that put up their first food trade show in the Philippines. And I was asked by one of my friends to participate. He had a company that did export, and he wanted to see how our ice cream was gonna be with all these foreign buyers.
So he had a booth.
He had a booth, and he gave me a small corner in his booth. And I only had space for my freezer, so I didn't even have space to sit down anywhere. I was standing along the hallway, the whole show, and there weren't many people in that show because it was a little bit on the expensive side, and it was more for buyers. And I was thinking, there's nobody here. There's not many people here. Only to find out that the owner of Pure Gold came to our booth, and she was with her group of assistants,
So
and I was able to.
This is Mrs. Susan Ko.
Susan Ko. Yes.
So she came over, and what happened?
She comes over, and I give her, of course, free tasting of ice cream, and she tells me that she'll get back to me in a month. And as usual, I thought that nobody was gonna call me back.
But you told me that she already knew your ice cream.
Yes, she knew our ice cream because a few months before, Mr. Lucia met with me and my dad during the campaign to give some assistance to my father, and I brought ice cream to the meeting. So it pays that.
And did he try it?
Of course, I brought a lot of ice cream with me. I made sure that he tried it because
In front of you?
Yes.
I've seen you do that actually.
Yes, I go walk around with my briefcase is a cooler, and I'll give ice cream out or just make people try it.
So when you met Mrs. Ko, did she make the connection?
She knew about it because her husband had brought some ice cream to her.
So she says her people will call you.
Yes.
And you thought what?
not gonna get back to me. Why is she gonna talk to me? I'm such a small ice cream manufacturer. But she did call. She did call. Her people contacted us a month later, and the rest, they say, is history.
So if she started out by selling Carmen's Best in 4 of Pure Gold's higher end
Yes.
stores.
They call it the lifestyle stores, which is Quezon Avenue, Shaw Boulevard, Molito in Alabang, and the terraces in Antipolo.
You wouldn't have thought that Pure Gold was your market, right?
I didn't think that was my market.
But why was it?
Because the people that buy there were store owners. They have this program called Aling Puring, where sari-sari store owners will buy their stock from Pure Gold, and that's what they sell. So these are people who had money to spend, and we were quite happy with how sales was going with Pure Gold.
By that time, you were working at Carmen's Best full-time already.
Yes, full-time.
But there was a voice of God moment
Yes.
that brought you there, right?
Yeah, I remember it was in St. James Church in Alabang. I went to church a little bit late, so I was standing in the back of the church, and this guy next to me just leaned over and asked me if I had any new flavors. And I was thinking, how does this guy know I even make ice cream? I mean, it's not like I've got a Carmen's Best t-shirt on or anything. But apparently a lot of people were already talking about it, and I thought to myself that maybe it's time to take it full-time, take it seriously, and really grow it. And it was really a turning point for me because it made me realize a lot of things about the business.
So apparently standing in the middle of an expo hall
Yes.
and standing in the back of a church are
Yes.
good things.
Yes, it's good. It's a good thing. It's always a good thing. You always learn something.
The next turn in the story is how you ended up supplying Philippine Airlines. And there was a bit of serendipity there as well, right?
Yes. Well, this was the time when Lucia bought back PAL from Ramona. And at that time, as you can imagine, they were serving Magnolia ice cream. So when Lucia bought back into PAL, they were changing some of the food in the plane that was being offered. And they wanted me to supply the business class, the long-haul business class of Philippine Airlines. So we were already talking because I think this was around October when that happened, when the sale pushed through. So December comes and we're doing tasting with the in-flight catering group of PAL. So they start choosing some flavors initially for a special flight in late January. Of course, they didn't tell me what the flight was for or who it was going to be in it. But we eventually found out that it was going to be the Pope's flight back to Rome. But we found that out already. It was just maybe a day or two before the Pope left.
So that got a lot of publicity as well.
Yes, we came out in the newspapers and then TV that he had 2 cups of our ice cream. You know, him being Argentinian, he has a sweet tooth, so he enjoyed our ice cream.
But you have a theory about why the Tans called you to supply Philippine Airlines.
Well, they were already buying our ice cream at that time.
Meaning as a family.
As a family. So they knew the quality of our ice cream, they knew the consistency of it. And I guess a lot of their friends were also buying our ice cream at the time because we had good sales in the Green Hills San Juan area. So they kind of had an idea about it.
So far, the story seems like you go from strength to strength.
Yes.
But there were, of course, mistakes, errors, miscalculations
Yes.
along the way.
Yes.
Tell us about some of them.
I think the biggest mistake we've done so far is to underestimate the local market. We were thinking that we wouldn't sell so much ice cream locally, that most of our business will be outside of the Philippines.
And in fact, you started to sell in Hong Kong and Singapore.
Hong Kong and Singapore. But when we came up with that mindset, we were just selling the pints, which was all over 300 pesos per pint. But since we started selling with PAL and coffee shops that use our single-serve cups, The single-serve cups has made...
They told you.
They specifically said that we have to come up with single-serve cups.
Yeah.
We were not looking to sell single-serve cups. But since the PAL account came in, we had to come up with smaller packaging. And there's a minimum order requirement for printed packaging, right? So when we did our first order...
At least in the tens of thousands, right?
Yes, and PAL was not ordering that volume. So we were stuck with so much of these individual cups that we were thinking, what are we going to do with this? I mean, are we going to start offering this in the local market?
And you weren't sure you wanted
We weren't
to,
sure.
because
we were afraid that people who were buying the pints would stop buying the pints and buy the single-serve cups, and we would have less overall sales. But the opposite happened. I think the fact that our single-serve cups are just a little over 100 pesos, it made the financial hurdle lower for people to try our ice cream, and it's turning out to be a very good thing for us.
Now you have a spanking new plant in Laguna Technopark.
Yes.
But that as well was partly because of this miscalculation about
Yes.
the Philippine market.
Yeah. So we took on a long-term lease in a plant in Laguna Technopark in the Binyan side, and I didn't realize how difficult it was to get PEZA accreditation.
You wanted it for the PEZA accreditation
Yes.
because you thought you'd be
For
exporting a lot.
yeah. And I think we've come to a decision where we're not looking to get PEZA. We'll just run it as a normal plant because we see that most of our business will be in the Philippines.
In the meantime, there was a cost of acquiring that plant that you needn't have spent if you had just realized that there were enough Filipinos
If I
to buy
didn't
this.
underestimate the local market. Yeah, so I really miscalculated that local market.
So where do you go from here? What's the next step?
Well, last June 3, we opened our first retail outlet because all these years we've been doing wholesale business. And much to our surprise, many people have not tried our ice cream. And this made us feel that we should put more kiosks around Metro Manila at least and be very aggressive with the free tasting, because we feel that when people try our ice cream one time, they get to understand the quality that we have.
So the kiosks are in the middle of the mall,
Yes,
as opposed to having your ice cream in a shelf in the supermarket.
yes.
That not everybody's going to pass.
And not everybody goes to the supermarket, which I realized. I go to the supermarket, but not everybody goes to the supermarket.
In the beginning, you were helping your father run the cable TV business.
Yes,
You helped him run the farm as well.
yes.
But you've told me that this, you think, is short of your mission. Ice cream.
Yeah. Actually, the first year of operation, I never even stepped foot on the farm. I was so against him going into a totally different business. I mean, we were in cable TV, and
He's a pioneer in the cable TV industry
yes,
here.
he's
People
known
might
as
not know that.
yeah, he's the father of the industry. But he started cable TV in the Philippines back in 1972. So I was wondering, why are you going to invest in a business that's so different from what we're doing now? I mean, from cable TV, you're going to dairy farming. But it has showed me that this business, our ice cream business, has defined me as a person in terms of how I run the business, the quality that we have, the flavors that we have. I think running a business is very similar to raising a child. And you want your child to be very much a mirror of you. Of course, better than you. I mean, your faults, you want to correct it and tell your child, the proper way to do things. And I think that's how I approach Carmen's Best. That I want it to be the best. No shortcuts. Nothing can compare to it. So even if the profit margins are small, I'm okay with it. I just want people to be happy eating it.
Ako magsaysay, thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.